Hello and welcome to Tech Hub. I am Kenneth Akan. Today on the show, we'll be discussing one of the most groundbreaking advancements of our time. That's blockchain technology. We'll be discussing its potential to revolutionize how industries operate and ignite economic growth on a scale we have never seen before. But first, we'll give you two trending stories when we return from this break. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Tech Hub, the TV show for all things tech in Africa. We'll start by looking at our trending stories for today. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said his administration would collaborate with the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, to strengthen the digital economy for the benefit of the state. He said Lagos State has attracted over $1.2 billion in digital investments over the past 5 years. These investments have been directed towards enhancing the state's digital infrastructure, including the development of hyperscale data centers, submarine cable landings, and improved connectivity. This initiative aligns with the education and technology pillar of the THEMS agenda, aiming to position Lagos as a leading digital hub in Africa. The collaboration with the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has been pivotal in safeguarding digital assets and fostering innovation, further solidifying Lagos' role as a key player in Nigeria's digital transformation. And to our second trending story today, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is championing the adoption of blockchain technology to enhance the regulation and efficiency of the capital markets. During a meeting with the Algorand Foundation in Abuja, the SEC Director General, Dr. Emomotimi Agama, highlighted blockchain's potential to address financial exclusion, inefficiencies, and lack of transparency in both public and private sectors. The SEC is aligning with international best practices and has introduced initiatives like the Accelerated Regulatory Incubation Program to foster innovation while safeguarding consumers. Recent approvals for digital assets, exchanges, and firms underscore the SEC's commitment to leveraging blockchain for a more transparent and effective financial system. A discussion on education for youths, blockchain education for youths in Africa, is still to come. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Tech Hub, the TV show for all things tech in Africa. We're back to fully discuss our topic for today, and I have a guest with me in the studio. For Africa to fully harness the potential of blockchain technology, education and literacy must take center stage. Our guest today will share insights on how blockchain technology is transforming financial inclusion and preparing the next generation for a technology-driven future. Joining us is Femi Adegolu, the founder and CEO of BChain Africa, a Web3 edtech company leading the charge in blockchain advocacy and education across Africa. Femi, it's good to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much, Ken.
All right, I'm excited about this conversation. Let's dive right into it. So we might have, or it's possible we have viewers who are not familiar with blockchain technology. So I want you to school us and tell us, what is blockchain technology and why is it important?
All right, so in very simple words, blockchain technology is a database. I can store information, you can store information, you can store information, and then we can all monitor the information and also verify. And that's why blockchain, makes transparency much more available, because you have, there's clarity on what's happening. Okay, from this wallet to this wallet, how much was sent, and when was it sent, and who sent it. Now, there's also anonymity, because it's a technology whereby people just have to create wallets, and normally sometimes you don't have these people's information, or who they are, or how old they are, or the KYC. But initially, right, we have security, because of course, anonymity also is one of the reasons why it's secure. Because people actually want to do things the way they want to do it. They want to have control over their money, they want to have control over their information, they want to have control over their data, they want to have control over their identity. Right? So in a nutshell, for those who do not know anything about blockchain, it's simply a database, right? A decentralized ledger where you can actually store information and anybody can access information easily.
Okay, I hear you when you say it's a simple database, but how does it differ from other technology available today, and what's its potential for social and economic impact?
Okay, when it comes to that area, that's where I'm talking about decentralization and security. So on the blockchain, you have different people who are validators, and when you hear the word validates, right, what they mean is that they approve transactions, they verify transactions, and these validators are in different parts of the world, They're called nodes or miners, but basically validators, right? And these people are in different parts of the world. So when information is with one validator, it's with thousands of validators. So when you lose information here or there's a hack, you still have that information stored elsewhere. While in the Web 2 technology, right, information is stored centrally. So most of the times when there is a cyber attack or when there is any, malware, what happens is that particular information becomes exposed, and that's why you see that banks or top financial institutions are trying to adopt blockchain technology and also integrate DeFi, which is decentralized finance, into their systems, so that they can have much more security, they can have much more advanced technology, and of course they can also serve the customers better.
So now I'm hearing you talk about adoption already. We're going to come to that shortly, but my next question is, what has been the biggest barrier or the biggest hindrance to blockchain literacy in Africa so far, and how can we overcome them?
Okay, yeah. First of all, you see, Africa has infrastructural problems, and that is first, because you cannot talk about you want, work online where you don't have lights and you are using generators, you have noise, and most especially a creative person cannot operate in a place that is not conducive, right? And so infrastructural problems are there, and then you also have education. I can say that 60 to 70% of our population are struggling to go to school or might not even go to uni. And so majorly, right, we have a lot of focus on our curriculum that is not really at par with what's going on in the Western world. So the world has moved on. AI and blockchain it has even been in existence. AI has been there even from the past 5-10 years ago, but it's now becoming a thing because you now have AI agents doing things that human beings will naturally do, like AI could make a post for you, right? So one of the hindrances is infrastructural problems. If Nigeria can have 24-hour electricity today, if we can have access to proper healthcare, we can have access to just good roads and some just basic things, right, and good water, I think that is actually the first step in the right direction, because people need to have these basic things. Now, if you are in a country like Dubai, living in a 24th floor building, you will not think the same way you are thinking when you are living in a place whereby there's so much generator noise and you can't even sleep and work at night, right? So distance learning, first of all, do you have lights? Working remotely, do you have lights? Do you have, good internet? So these are some of the hindrances, and once these things can be resolved, if you can actually provide your own lights as solar energy, or you can provide your own internet, I think yes. So the major block to blockchain adoption or education in Africa as a whole is this core issue, and Nigeria can actually solve it if we want to.
That's interesting to know. So now I'm thinking, are there any ongoing initiatives or programs you are aware of that's all out to drive blockchain literacy for African youths today?
Yes, of course. Like what we're doing at Beach in Africa is part of it. There's so many of my friends doing amazing work too. And I'm also proud to say that a lot of blockchain companies are coming to Africa because they see that the talent is here. And mind you, Nigeria is the most active or the largest economy when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency in Africa, right? We have the highest P2P volume. We have the most active users from Nigeria. We also have the most developers from Nigeria. We have the most active community in Nigeria as well. So most of these blockchain companies come to Nigeria, and then they see that there's a lot of young people who are interested in building their career and building their future in this tech. And then, of course, these guys are also giving out grants. I can mention a couple of them. My company has partnered with Coinbase last year. It was called the Based Africa Buildathon. It happened in the University of Nairobi, and over $100,000 were given out to 20-something winners from Africa, right? And a couple of other initiatives like that has happened in the past, whereby we train people online and also on site, right? And then we gave rewards to these young people. So what happens, these young people go back home, they've gotten rewarded, they've gotten validation that their talent can get them a better future. And what happens next? They can build on that. So once one family has one person that has really broken up in poverty, one person being rich means that a minimum of 10 people's life are affected. So we are doing that, and we're going to continue doing more. So with that initiative we've done last year, we've done a couple of events as well. University of Lagos, we had the U.S. consulate was part of it, and some very amazing companies. Shout out to our partners and sponsors who came to support that event. It was massive. We had over 1,000 people in the hall. That was in 2023. We did one in Uniben, University of Benin, and we had a great turnout. So that's to tell you that these young people understand that the internet is becoming decentralized. The internet is becoming a very fast-moving world, and then they have to be a part of it, because the Gen Zs, they are the best. The median age in Nigeria is 19 years old, and we have over 70% of the population under the age of 25. So that's to tell you that we are a very young country, and the only way we can actually increase our GDP, help our economy, and also help our lives better is being able to adopt this tech.
All right, so we're going to quick break, and when we return, we have more questions for Femi on the adoption and literacy of African youths on blockchain technology. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Tech Hub, the TV show for all things tech in Africa. We'll still have our guest on the show. Femi is here with us, and I just want to read out the reports for you real quick, Femi. So there's a report, the 2023 Chain Analysis Report highlights the dominance of Nigeria in the African cryptocurrency market, placing it at the forefront of Africa's crypto economy. Yes. Now, this report ranked Nigeria number 2 in the 2023 Global Crypto Adoption Index. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and how that has solved real-world problems for us in Nigeria, the adoption and the use of blockchain technology.
Now, you see, thank you very much for that question. And I wish the government is paying attention to things like this, because this data is what you use to actually think of how to think of the next 10 years on designing the economic strategy. Now, as you already know, Donald Trump has signed the U.S. Bitcoin strategy, and I spoke about that on Arise News about 2 months ago. And of course, here, I understand the implications of this, because driving that particular initiative, driving that idea alone, is going to attract so much FDIs, foreign direct investment, into the country, right? And that's for the U.S. that is way, way richer and organized than we are. If we can adopt this same strategy, but not really copy and paste, looking at this, Nigeria is the most dominant in terms of P2P volumes. That's to tell you that global remittances, Nigerians who are in diaspora, instead of actually, going through sending money and then paying huge charges, they send money through cryptocurrency to wallet addresses, and the money still goes through the banking system, right? So that's to tell you that if we support this technology by, making better policies for these companies to come in, there are going to be more investors coming, there are going to be more events, there are going to be more jobs, right? And there's going to be a lot of money flowing into the economy. Because why? Wherever there's a better policy, investors go there, right? Like the issue happened with Binance last year.
No, so before we get to Binance, you mentioned something now that struck a chord with me. You mentioned America has its Bitcoin strategy. I know Nigeria has something. Have you seen the Nigerian Bitcoin policy document released by NIDA? So if you haven't, maybe we'll get to have you some other time to discuss that. But what do you think should be a focal point for a Nigeria Bitcoin strategy? Okay,
first of all, we need to create that policy document and say, okay, this is why we're doing this. Because the truth is that, there's an issue of trust. The youth do not trust, those in power. So people might think that, okay, they're trying to use another strategy to loot money. But the truth is this year, our fiat money is losing value each day. And while we're trying to do that, even the US too is suffering from inflation. Globally, there's a lot of issues around inflation. So Bitcoin looks more like an asset whereby the country can keep in reserves to hedge against inflation. right? And so now that is for the government side. Now, in terms of how we can benefit from this analysis reports, is number one, creating a much more, how will I say, a much more decent environment for companies, blockchain companies, and crypto exchanges to do business, right? And bear in mind that yes, for every technology there are bad players, but when we have these sets, like there are even a lot of careers that can also spring up, like those who are blockchain lawyers. Now that is another discussion on its own, because the more companies come, they have to do some CSE registrations, they have to work with the SEC, they have to do a lot of company registration. They also have offices, right? This is what we're missing out on. Now, this report also shows you clearly that in Africa, we are the most active, the most dominant. That's to tell you that a lot of transaction flow is coming to cryptocurrency and blockchain from the Western world. And so when it is encouraged, more companies will come. When it is encouraged, we'll have more events. When it's encouraged, we'll have more jobs. When it's encouraged, people will want to come to Nigeria and even do more partnerships with the local companies here. And in fact, the reason why we actually did what we did in Kenya last year was because of the whole, policy, regulation, and environment wasn't really conducive enough.
Yeah, so let me come in here and say something about policy now. Just triggered something. So I know the reason why African countries may not have had friendly policies to encourage blockchain adoption at scale would have been the fact that everything that can be used can also be abused.
Yes.
So there might be fear about criminal elements using blockchain to launder money, do terrorism financing, and all that. But you mentioned earlier about transparency. How can this be used to fight corruption, really, blockchain technology?
Okay, yeah. So because of this, there's a whole lot of bad players in this space. We cannot, discredit that. And the technology is just less than 2 decades old. It's 15 years right now. And because of that, a lot of people have been using that to do what they do. But let us focus on the positive side of things, because if we're looking at the negatives, we're not going to move forward, right? Every country in the world, even in Dubai, Qatar, the Middle East is becoming the AI hub of the entire world, right? Now, innovation attracts investments, innovation breeds prosperity, innovation attracts lots of benefits for the people, particularly a young population in Nigeria, right? Now, when the government sees that this is where the youths are, focusing on, this is where the youths are thriving on, a lot of forex traders, crypto traders, and all that stuff, virtual asset service providers, there are certain laws that can be made to mitigate these risks. Do you understand? There are certain policies that can be made to mitigate them, because you cannot, you can't even alleviate poverty. I don't believe in poverty alleviation. I believe in wealth creation. I believe in job opportunities. The poverty will reduce, but it can never be alleviated. Right, so mitigating this risk is what the government can do with the right policies. If I'm called upon to be a part of the committee in the government and say, okay, we want to help this, do this, what do you think we can do? We can actually have a cohesive approach from the private and public sector. People like us, people like the asset providers and service providers, companies, and the government on a round table. We can build. I know definitely there's already a document, but it's not about creating, it's about implementing. It's about having the CBN and SEC working in tandem, working together.
My question is how. My question is how. You've talked about the what. This is what should happen. The government, private and public sector, educational institutions should come together to drive blockchain literacy and adoption. But my question to you is how?
Yeah.
And to what ends?
Okay, yeah. Currently, I can tell you that some blockchain companies are giving out a lot of funding and grants to Nigerian businesses or Nigerian partners to encourage what is going on, pending when there's now becoming a clear direction. Now, in Kenya, for example, every year I can tell you there are so many events, conferences, there's so many opportunities that Kenyans will get that Nigerians won't get. It is harder for some companies to employ a Nigerian. I will tell you for a fact, I know so many that you're a Nigerian, you live in Nigeria, not because you're Nigerian, that's not a problem. We have talent. I believe in Nigeria, I believe in Africa. I'm a Pan-Africanist. And I so much believe in the young population of this country because we are super good. I can tell you so many things I've seen, so many companies, startups that I've seen, and I know that this thing has potential. Now, in Kenya, it is easier for some companies in the US to employ a Kenyan than for them to employ a Nigerian. Because, you know, the legal side of things is just so hectic. And it will cost them thousands of dollars to employ a Nigerian. So they'll just go for other countries. So what does that mean? That money that guy, the salary that guy is supposed to collect, whether it's paid in crypto or it's paid in fiat, if he gets paid in crypto, he will still go to the club. He will still buy clothes. He will pay house rent. The money comes into the country.
So how can Nigerians position themselves for these opportunities in the blockchain industry?
First of all, you have to go to educate themselves, and that's what we do at Beach in Africa. Education is key, right? We're going to have a much more robust system this year by the next quarter, whereby we're going to have it to democratize it across institutions, because of course that's why our events called Blockchain for Financial Freedom is done within schools. And there's a reason why I have the intentionality behind that, because these guys, once they're done with university, they go for youth service, most of them go back home. And the lucky ones are hired, but how many percentage of them? Maybe just 10% or 5%, right? So now the best thing you can do for yourself is getting that skill. Like in the blockchain space, for example, I'm a business development manager. I do very well at partnerships and strategy, right? Apart from working as the founder of Beach in Africa, right? And my skill, I've applied it even as a board advisor for several Web3 companies, you know, globally. Now, some other people, they are very good at writing codes, and we are a mathematics expert. If you're good at mathematics, you can do very well in software engineering. So you can build blockchain decentralized applications, right? Now, if you're a writer, you can write technically. If you are a content creator, you can create content for blockchain companies. And there's so many rewards, grants that even the biggest companies will not give you. But in blockchain, the space is amazing. You just have to choose a niche, look at what you're good at, and then participate in it. And I can tell you, right, those who have really paid their dues, because it's not just immediate gratification, but those who have paid their dues will definitely get the rewards. I see a lot of young people every day on the internet making content. They're not being paid. But you know, one thing I like about the blockchain space is that if you are creating anything and you're making impact, people will notice you. It's called retroactive. Like you have to be active and then you get rewarded. That's why it's called retroactive funding. Do you understand?
So it leads me to my last question. What role do you see blockchain playing in Africa's economic and technological future?
It's massive. Number one, already seen in the global remittances. Number two, job creation, wealth creation. Number three, in terms of tokenization, because it's very, very, you know, poor men or poor families do not even have a dream of buying cars, of buying lands or building houses, right? And the gap between the rich and the poor is getting wider in Nigeria, because I've traveled quite a couple of places in Africa, but poverty is a very major issue. So now, one of the key roles that blockchain is going to play is in terms of ownership of assets, asset management and asset ownership. And I'm building a startup already on that. It's called Landscaler. You guys watch out for it. Landscaler is going to be the biggest thing talked about on the internet in the next couple of years. And for real, it is going to solve the issue of fractional ownership and, you know, asset management, because you can actually own things. It's called reward assets, right? You can actually own things, not physically, but own it, and then you can actually, you know, make your investments much more easy as an investor. Well-informed decisions, and also being able to own a part of something that you can maybe not touch, but you basically are owning it, like buying shares, like stuff like that. Now, I mentioned how many now? I mentioned how many.
You've lost count.
You've lost count, right? Now, in one also major part, data governance. In Africa today, I can tell you some countries have very good data storage system, information record system, right? Okay, Nigeria, why do we have a driver license? Why do we have an international passport? Why do we have NIN?
That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another day. We have to bring you back to discuss, because I mean, I've always been at the forefront of asking those questions. Why do we have multiple identification systems? But Femi Adegolu, thank you very much for joining us today on Tech Hub. I think you would become a regular. Based on popular demand, on our viewers' request, you become a regular, because there's no end in sight to discussing these conversations at length, these topics at length. I mean, it would be nice to bring you back and discuss how blockchain technology is transforming Nigerians and making Africans millionaires overnight. We'll get to that.
Not overnight, though.
It takes a lot of nights to become overnight.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Femi, for joining us on the show today. I'm sure our viewers have learned a thing or two about blockchain technology and how blockchain literacy can literally transform your lives and your world. So thank you very much, Femi, for joining us.
Thank you.
That's all we can take on today's edition of Tech Hub. Remember to follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and join us same time next week for another interesting lowdown on the goings on in tech in Africa. I am Kenneth Akan. Bye for now.